Hi, and welcome to another episode of Entrepreneurship Uncovered, where we discuss the beauty and challenges of entrepreneurship. I am Gabrielle Luma, CPA, CGMA, and CEO of Mod Ventures, and today I am excited to have Isaac Perdomo, CEO and founder of Opzer. Before we start, let me tell you a little bit about Mod Ventures. Mod Ventures is an outsourced accounting and advisory company for businesses across the United States. We offer operational accounting to small businesses struggling to understand their finances. Our passion is to help entrepreneurs create their financial futures and the business of their dreams. Isaac! I am so excited to have you today. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom. I have to tell the audience before you get started that we actually work together. And so Isaac and I have quite a friendship and a lot of camaraderie, I would say. And so I'm doubly excited to have you on today. So Isaac, welcome.
I am honored, Gabby. The excitement is mutual.
To give us a little bit of background, I know you're in AI, you're in automation, but tell us about Opzer and about
Yeah,
you too. Tell us all about you.
sure. Opzer is a automation agency fully dedicated to helping accounting firms kind of do more with their existing team and software, really helping them optimize their processes and make sense of their technology. And I think that's key because we're not like another app. I don't think accountants and firm owners need another app of the thousands of them that are available. What they really need is helping them somewhat make sense of what they got and kind of better integrating it. We've been in this business for the last 5 years, kind of niche down to the accounting space specifically about 3 years ago. Part passion, part business, right? Like we really saw the need in this space. But at the same time, my dad was an accountant. My mom worked in kind of technology for the finance space. So from a very early age, I had exposure to the idea that, computers can really help a lot of professionals, but financial and accounting professionals, even more so in particular.
Yeah, I mean, when I began in my profession, I had people telling me stories of these computers that had these screens that are, like 4 inch by 4 inch, the really tiny screens. And so technology has come such a long ways, and I can personally vouch for how much it has really changed in the last 20 some odd years. And so it's a major part of our profession and something that we have to rely on very heavily in order to be effective of what we do on a day-to-day basis. So it's
Yeah, definitely. Effective and
amazing.
efficient.
AI and automation is something that we hear about all the time in our businesses now. I don't think you can scroll Instagram or TikTok or anything without hearing about how AI is going to change our lives. We're going to have robots, we're going to have all these things happening. So, just to kind of back up a little bit, what are the differences between automation and AI in small business systems and
Yeah,
process?
yeah. That's a great question. And I think something that's misunderstood. And I'll say like even overused on the AI side, because sometimes people, that's what they hear and that's what they feel they want when there maybe are other tools available. So my definition of automation, to be more concrete here, is effectively anything that helps you eliminate or reduce the manual steps in a process. And it's quite a broad definition if you look at it like that, right? If you have a, auto reply for when you go on vacation, technically that's, some degree of automation. If you have a formulas on a spreadsheet, technically that's part of automation. So it comes in many different flavors. But I think the key difference is the following. It's always been an objective criteria, meaning if this email has this subject line, filter it this way, right? Or if this transaction has, Stripe on it, coded this way. And now we get AI, I think for the first time, we have some level of subjectivity, right? We have some level of technology to kind of navigate a more vague question where now you can say, hey, if the email it's a complaint, do this, right? Or
Yeah.
if the transaction is whatever I don't know, from a supermarket, right? So you don't have to like give it the exact context. You can be a little bit more flexible.
Mhm.
And that's probably it's kind of like a double-edged sword of like, okay, Now we can handle more subjective scenarios. At the same time, especially when accuracy is important, sometimes you don't want to use it because it still is in a stage where it hallucinates. So
Mhm.
that's another thing to keep into account.
It hallucinates. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. That's
That,
effectively a term to say, hey, it makes things up, right?
yeah.
And I
Yes.
was literally talking to another prospect that wanted to create like dashboards for the
Yeah.
clients, but they were using AI for it. And the challenge is that they were using the AI to pull the data
Oh,
and it was making stuff up. So I
yeah.
think as, engineers, what we do, we have to be mindful of like when AI makes sense and when it doesn't, because
Right.
you don't want to use it everywhere.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. I've never heard of AI doing that. I think our experience with you has been, yeah, you're helping us build dashboards. You're helping us make
Yeah,
improvements and get those out more timely and more accurately and better formatted and all those different things. But to think that something can make up numbers, that's mind blowing. We want the actual data.
correct. And that's why, again, in that context, automation is the way to go.
Right,
You could use AI for the insights that the data
right,
might be able to give you, which is the more subjective part of it.
right, right.
But you probably don't want AI making stuff up as it
No.
relates to the source of the data that's coming
Right,
from.
right. Very early on, we were using in QuickBooks, the rules automation and making sure that things were automated based on in that where you can be really, really specific. If it's this vendor, it needs to go to this, category of expense and it takes care of it, right? And then you have to do maintenance and things like that to ensure that it's actually working correctly, but it's not making up places to put it.
Right.
It's not
Yeah.
doing that. Repeatable process automation is when you can be very, very specific. And that's what I've
Yeah.
best
Yeah.
for.
And to prove my point, literally just this week, when we met earlier this week, is where we enable for the first time in an automation an AI step. When we kind of like put that AI assistant earlier this week to
Uh-huh.
prove the point that we've done so much and not like a relatively small portion of that has been with AI. I think it's going to continue to be a bigger thing.
Yeah.
But I think that the reality is that there's so much more opportunities that business owners have to gain from an efficiency standpoint, just better using the tools, integrating them, using a lot of the automation that's built into those tools or third-party automation platforms,
Right.
as opposed to just going straight into AI.
Yeah. So the kinds of tools that you guys generally specialize in, accountant based, but I mean, there's general tools that you have to use that is going to apply to any business owner. So what are those tools that are like your go-to?
The tools we're integrating more often than not is like the tools accountants use to do their work. So their accounting software, there's tax workflow software, but of course, there's often other pieces that are shared across businesses, as you've
Yeah.
mentioned, like a hub for their work, like a work management software, or sometimes called also project management tool.
Yeah.
Typically, you integrate a lot of CRMs as well, where you're supposed to have all the information from customer relationships. It's kind of like what it CRM stands for.
Yeah.
So I'd say those probably are the biggest categories. It's either accounting software, project management software, CRM software, and kind of like a lot of miscellaneous tools under each one of them. For example, in the CRM world, you'll probably have like proposals associated with that process. In
Right.
the project management world, you might have maybe an additional time tracking or a billing application associated with that process. So, but more often than not, that's like the three big pieces, right? The CRM, which is where you hopefully keep track of all your opportunities
Yeah.
to generate revenue. The work, which is where you track all of the things you do to deliver that revenue, deliver your promise to your clients. And then the accounting, where you keep track of all of your transactions and the story your numbers tell.
To tell the story, I think we've been working together for over a year now. And I think we've hit some pretty big things, but it was all around process flow and how the information is going to get into the system and how should it go through it. And so
Yeah.
backing up into like workflow and verifying when there's changes. Is this a test or is this for real. Like this is what you're going to do all the time. You've helped us with a lot of that workflow, the CRM, connecting hours, connecting to financial reports and different things like that for our own company, which I think has been super powerful in trying to get the analytics that we need in order to
Yeah,
do the job. So, yeah,
yeah, definitely.
real world example would be, something I think that I just kind of explained, taking that CRM, adding the QuickBooks information, and then developing reports based on that information. So, I mean, when I tell clients what we're doing, they're like, "Can I have Isaac's number?" I'm like, yes, of course. You know, because these are the things that, business owners want. They want this extra detail, the extra analytics that's there. In the context of practical applications that you see small businesses use, what are the top three automations that give the best return for a service-based business in either accounting or just service-based in general? Because we're a lot alike.
Definitely. There's a lot of similarities. And I guess to try to keep it industry agnostic,
Mhm.
I think you've mentioned probably the one that I believe it's often the most important to start with, especially in the mid-size organization where there's more than a handful of people, which is reporting.
Mhm.
I think that as a business grows, we as leaders and CEOs have to let go.
Yeah.
It is important to have something to hold on to, right? We don't want to let go and advocate and let things, go south. And sometimes what we have, the way in which we do that is through data, right? Is through metrics, is through keeping the team accountable to certain metrics so that you can let go and make sure things are still running
Mhm.
as expected. So I'd say reporting is probably one of the ones I would try to automate first, because that not only gives you the efficiency of not having to do it manually, but
Yeah.
also the insight into decisions that you might
Mhm.
be able to make with that data. And not only financial reports, which accounting software does a good job at automating to some degree,
Right.
but also there's so many other data points around your operations, around your deals, and where are those deals coming from, and what percentage of those do you close, and so much data that you can use to better understand how to keep growing and
Right.
how to better manage your business. So in reporting is probably the number one. Number two, I'll probably say client onboarding, especially in the context of service-based businesses. I feel like that's your first impression. That's
Yeah.
a process that every client goes through,
Mhm.
regardless of the service they buy.
Sure.
So making sure you have that process tightened up, streamlined, I feel it's probably another of the biggest wins for firms.
Mhm.
If I wanted to give you a third one, I'll just say like for the firm owner or the business owner thinking about this, for them to think about their core service line, because
Mhm.
that's going to look different for different people. But your core service line for most firms, that's either tax prep or bookkeeping. So thinking about how do you deliver that core service from end to end would be probably the third option I
Ooh.
would look into.
Yeah, and that's a master, like that's a major overhaul if you're to look at the third option. I mean, you have to standardize so many processes. And it's funny, 20 years in, I'm like already going like, okay, how do we, make that transition to standardize everything that we have now? And I think the best thing is if you're in that position like me, or you've been doing this for 5 years, and let's say you have 100 clients, like when do you make that transition? And the idea is like now, like start with every new client that you have coming on board.
Yeah,
That has helped me to not get too overwhelmed with changing structure and strategy around, the structuring of the process for
yeah,
each client coming forward. So, um, we have made some major overhauls, but you know, restructuring how you're going to do the work, I think that's a major that's a major
yeah,
step. But
yeah,
whew, I bet that would provide so much efficiency that it would
yeah,
blow our minds. So
yeah. And that's why I say if this your core process is what you do every day, it's probably a big chunk of your revenue and your payroll
yeah,
costs, like that's probably what you want to. That will be your biggest win. Is going to be a heavier lift.
Yes.
That will be most people's biggest win.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
I think so too. Especially because when you do start using automation, you want everything to be exactly the same. And I think that's what we run into is you'll have different clients on different applications. And so it's really difficult to automate the entire process because you have different
So
types.
much variety, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. We were talking about the in general, like the practical applications, how you would prioritize and how you would really decide what you want to tackle first. Next, I'd like to talk about like the tools and the tech stack and maybe some of the mistakes that you've seen. Oh man, I've had a few.
Sure. Let's talk about it.
I'm vulnerable now. You have to tell my story. So but I mean, how have we decided, in general, what are the best tools for us to invest in?
I think a lot of the things we think about, it's like going top down, and I'll expand on that idea in a little bit, but a lot of people like to like look at the tool first and see how it fits into their process. And they're just trying to, what's the saying, a square peg into a round hole,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Where I think that is so important, and honestly something that almost no other software company is going to do, because that's not their job. They're trying to sell you this thing. So they'll talk about that thing. They're not
yes,
coming from it from a consultative standpoint where they help you kind of map out that process first. I know you're a fan of flowcharts, and every
yeah,
time we're really trying to zoom out, we're looking at, okay, what does this process look like from
mhm,
beginning to end, and understanding where are the current gaps, so that then we can talk about, hey, let's explore what options are in the market to solve these particular pain points within the
mhm.
process. So I'd say that's one, is just starting with the process with your internal needs and then going out into the market to see what's a fit.
Yes, I think when we are working with clients too, we started building like a matrix of client need and then helping support them with what they needed instead of like, oh, this is what we know, right? Instead of assuming,
Yeah, because there's
yeah,
a lot of vendors, of like, hey, this is the tool we know, this is what we'll use, like it or not, you
right.
know, when I
Mhm.
think that's just not in the best interest of the customer ultimately.
No, And so it does lead to a lot of different applications that you're supporting. You do at some point need to say, like, this is my limit. I can't support a lot of different apps, but having the client also help make that decision is really important. They're part of that process.
Yeah,
When we're working with them on that. When we're looking at applications for us, really there was a specific need. There was a
right.
specific problem. The old-fashioned portal system just isn't supporting our clients like they need it to. And it's
Yeah,
not intuitive and it's hard to move around and it's hard for our staff. And those are the things that we kind of went out to the marketplace and started asking questions about. Luckily, because you have the experience of working with a lot of different applications, you could help us decide on what was going to be best.
and I'll say this more tactically, maybe for the audience, because it's like, hey, your needs. That's kind of a little obvious, right? But a couple of other vectors I like to think about are, of course, cost effective, because
Yeah.
we run businesses that need to, have a profit at the end of the day. So it
Yeah.
has to make sense financially,
Yeah.
but also like easy to use. I think that's such a big one, because what's the point? The software is meant to be used to
Yes.
simplify the
Mhm.
workflows for the people involved, both clients and internal staff. So to the degree that it is easy to use and intuitive, and that's honestly so not true for some of like the legacy tax software that
Yes.
are available in this space.
Yeah.
And the third one, I'd say it's more relevant to us, but extremely important long term, and something that people sometimes glance over, which is how integration friendly is it? If
Mm,
tomorrow you change another app, how well will it talk to that other application, and how easier it will be for you to make those apps talk to each other?
mhm.
Because the one thing we know is, your tool stack's going to change eventually.
Yeah.
There might be another tool that's going to do the part of the process better that you might want to adopt. You
Yeah.
don't want to find yourself in the spot that all of a sudden you're not like improving and adopting other tools because this core tool you've chosen, won't talk to anything else.
Right. 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 Yeah, I mean, talk about change over the years, in 2000, I think 12, it was like, oh, let's go to a hosted um, site where we're going to have, all of our files backed up and, we're going to be using QuickBooks Desktop and all this other stuff, right? And then within 2 years, we were moving to cloud-based solutions. It was that quick, going from in-house, we had everything on servers to cloud-based solutions
Yeah.
to now.
And
Um,
we talk to many people that haven't made that move yet.
uh,
So, you know,
yeah,
just say,
yeah, and it's crazy how quickly you can make that transition into other applications and have a really smooth transition. But I guess what I'm trying to say is things have moved so much and changed so much over time that you do have to ensure that when you're implementing a new app that it's going to work for everything.
yeah,
And isn't that like is this is me showing my I don't
go
know.
for it.
Is it
Don't be shy.
it's you have to have the API key? Is that the thing?
Well, I'll say this, like there's different ways in which a tool can talk to another.
Mhm.
Sometimes they have what's called like native integration. So they have like easy ways to like plug and play that you can use. But more often than not, those are built by the company. And
Mhm.
sometimes they don't maintain it or not customizable. So one of the things we really look for, to your point, it's an API, which stands for Application Program Interface. And
Mhm.
the way I like to explain it, that's just like a link for a robot. So just
Oh,
like you have a link that you log into and you give it the credentials, and now you are logged into QuickBooks and you can create journal entries and delete them and create contacts. In the same way, an API gives you a link for the robot to log in and then do stuff on your behalf. Like I just mentioned, like creating journal entries or creating contacts or whatever it is that you need to do within that tool. So yeah, that's a big part of it. Seeing if it has an API, that's part of evaluating whether it's integration friendly or not.
okay. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's always been kind of a mystery to me. Like, how do we know for sure if this is really, gonna work? So,
Right.
and I know there's other people like me out there. Um,
Yeah, that's fair.
so one of the pushbacks or one of the things that people generally have when it comes to automation, when it comes to, kind of putting some of these things in place, is ensuring that it's actually going to be, is it going to work? Is it going to mess with my financial information? How is it going to affect my reporting? There's a lot of things. How's it going to affect
Yeah.
my decision making? For example, we had a client who switched over to QuickBooks Online and then moved to Clover. Obviously, things are going to look different from QuickBooks Desktop and their old POS system. A lot of people put off that type of transition. So, I mean, I'm interested to hear how do you kind of ensure that the transition isn't terrible and that the data is actually still correct?
I think those are kind of like two questions, right? Like let's talk
Yeah.
about the chain management of the individuals. Let's talk about sort of like the data side after that. I say that on the change management side and ensuring that people are a little bit more comfortable with that change. I think that there's really not a silver bullet other than really involving those team members early. You know, I think that it's such a underrated component of making change effective and adding a new tool or introducing a new app in a firm. It's like, who are the people involved and how can we make sure we get their input as early as we can? Because the more that they feel involved, that they feel they were, even if you made a different decision than what they wanted, at least if they feel heard, they're going to back you up, right? And if they feel that you're making the best decision in terms of what's this for the firm, best for them long term, they're going to adopt it eventually over time. On the data side, I think that there's so many aspects to ensuring that your data will look like the way you want.
Mhm.
What I've learned about technology and automation over time is that sometimes it's like you don't know until you test. Many of these apps have free trials and demos, and I think the reason is it's hard to envision how your data, your workflows your team is going to work in this new app if you just haven't done it. So to
Right.
the degree that you can, in that exploratory phase, I'm a big fan of just sign up and explore some of your data, start to experiment to see what it looks like.
Mhm.
Of course, if you have, shameless plug, kind of like people like us that can do that for you. I do
Yeah.
remember that when we are exploring the CRM as an example, for your firm,
Mhm.
we were not like, hey, this is the CRM. We kind of explored three different options. We sat down at the time with Corey, your business manager,
Right.
and Ro, your kind of ClickUp consultant, to make that decision together, right?
Mhm.
So I think like that to me is really the core piece of advice of change management. It's make the decisions together with your team, get their input, and that's really how you're going to make sure that ultimately it works in the
Yeah,
end.
that's gold standard right there. I mean, that's a golden nugget that I think, when we're talking about all the technical things, we can really forget that people are a huge component of change and how that's going to actually be carried out in the organization. We as CEOs have a mindset of how we want to see things done. And actually, we want it done yesterday. So, just being honest, right? Why can't we make this change tomorrow? And there are some things that you could flip the switch on and do fairly quickly, but when you're having to include the firm or the company, staff wide, then it does require a lot more planning and really ensuring that you get the proper people
Yeah,
helping to make that decision and give you feedback and play with the toys, the tools. They're toys for me.
they're
I
toys too.
I'm one of those I'm one of those people that just jump in. I download, I do the demos, I'm like play with them before I get too excited about anything. But I have no problem doing that and never have. I can be annoying to, folks who are like, wait a minute, why are we doing this now? I'm like, I don't know. It sounds good. So I did learn something though from this last tax season is we did tackle
Tell me
two
more.
all at once. Yeah, I did too much. I did too much. And
Yeah,
I think that is also could potentially be an issue too if you try to do too much at one time. Tell me about your experiences with that. How do you handle that when clients come at you and they're like, "No, I think we can do 3 apps." And you're like,
honestly, over time, I've really learned to be more comfortable saying no. I think that ultimately, at the core of many of our jobs as, you know, really service-based businesses, it's like if we're people pleasers, we'll be tempted to say yes just to please the client.
"Yeah,
Um, so I think to the degree that you can really learn to stand your ground, have an opinion, and
yeah,
say, hey, actually, I do think that we don't need to change your apps. Maybe your existing apps are enough. We just need to do X, Y, and Z. I think that clients will come to respect and appreciate that. And I
yeah,
think that's something that's taking me too long to learn.
yeah."
Um, it's really not giving into that people pleasing mentality and saying what you think if you even if it's in contrast or opposed to what the client wants or thinks they want.
I am a people pleaser too. And I think that it's something that you have to always be very, very intentional about because it's really about them. You're there to help them become the best that they can be. And that's why they hired you. And so getting
Yeah,
comfortable with that and having those conversations in a way that's helpful
yeah.
can change everything. But I don't know if it will ever be easier for me to, stop that. Stop it.
Not have your crazy ideas.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, but
But
I,
honestly, I think it's also like, especially if you're working with, an amazing visionary like the one you are, I think sometimes the visionaries will come to respect and appreciate that you filter through
mhm,
their, crazy ideas. Because sometimes even they themselves think about something, and if they look at it a month later, they'll be like, no, that's not worth doing. I was excited about it when I thought about it, but it's probably not the best path forward. So I think like we sometimes as, you know, partners of a business have to ensure that we are protecting their own resources
Yeah.
of
Hmm.
the time and bandwidth they have and the investment that they're making in you
Right.
to make sure that those efforts are, giving them the best bang for the buck and
Right.
are going to ultimately pay off.
When we're talking about roles within your company and what business owners need, CEOs, COOs, in general, you need people who are experts in their field, but also it's complementary to what we currently do. So I think accounting and what you
Yeah,
do is like very complementary. You're right. Absolutely. You need to have, I would say, that technology arm of the company now. And that's where you've kind of filled in is like you're like the tech guy. There are things that I go to you that I'm not even sure you're going to be able to solve. But, I can ask you, hey, where would you begin on this? Or what do you think about this? Or should I actually contact something? Maybe it's hardware. Maybe it's an issue in hardware. It's not even a software issue. But I think having you be a part of, like
of that conversation. Yeah,
you're on our accountability chart, Isaac. You know, you're a part of the conversation when we said, "Hey, we want to implement EOS," and where do we want to have Isaac be part of this conversation because we understand that this is a vital role that we have to
yeah,
have in our company now. It's like
yeah,
something that we can't do on our own. There's just not
yeah.
enough capacity, number one. Number two, not enough expertise. And you need somebody who's concentrating on the tech while other like the accountants are focusing on the client service. So I think
Right.
that's
Yeah.
where I have seen you balance between me working as a CEO and also my team in actually helping them produce and be effective at what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. That means a lot coming from you because I know we've worked together and the fact that you see us as part of your team means a lot because that's kind of what that's the level of service we try to provide, like, so that people don't feel like, they're vendor
Yeah,
outside, they're a partner, that part of
right.
our team. So that means a lot. Can I share a crazy idea before we go?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
Please.
there's a big company called Moderna. They do like vaccines, things like that. But one of their, I think their CEO decided to do the following. Think about this, how crazy this is. They decided to merge their tech and their people departments.
Yeah.
So it's like saying, hey, this is just the resources departments, whether they're human or, you know, computer resources. And it's really an idea that I feel will become more common because now it's like I think like technology professionals and automation professionals should be involved in conversations of hiring because if the automation could do part of the job, we should hire that first.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's another, I guess, a tidbit of nugget for you in terms of like over time, I think more and more before we hire and or as we hire, we have to ask the question, can our can we take things off of our team's plate
Yeah.
before we bring the next person on?
Yeah.
I
I have
think you didn't like that.
no, I love it. Because I think that's been a challenge, because you're always thinking that a person has to do something. Like, especially if you're a business owner and you don't know what all that's out there, right? This is not your specialty. This is not something you do on a day-to-day basis. But if you have
Right.
Isaac, Isaac does this on a day-to-day basis and he sees things across the board from a lot of different companies. So I think that um, technology I definitely should have a seat at the table. And I think that's why there's so many, chief technology officers now, right?
Yeah.
They're the CTOs and they're getting involved at the highest levels of management. What I don't know is if they are breaking down those barriers and having those conversations when it comes to, the actual work and
Yeah.
ensuring that it's actually being done correctly. So, um, I mean, I'm a firm believer in tech, and I've always thought that we were pretty good at automating and making some of those processes streamlined. but I don't think I think I was overly, patting myself on the back because I think there's so much more we could do. Like there's a lot more. I mean, obviously you come in and you streamlined a lot of things and, things that took hours to do now you can do, fairly quickly. Um, you can see that in our reporting too. So it's not
Yeah,
like we're just making things up. Like we have the actual reporting to tell where people are
the
getting
improvements
more.
being made.
Yeah. So it's not just like, oh yeah, Isaac's a great investment just cause. No, it's we have the data to back that up now. And I think that is an important part for you because you want to
Yeah,
show that value to your clients and saying, yeah, I'm easily paying for myself and then some.
yeah,
And I'm helping your people become more tech ready, I guess. More tech.
yeah.
How would you say that? Tech ready?
More tech enabled, maybe,
There you go.
and
Yeah,
like being able to do more without burning out. Because that's the other thing. Like, we don't want to go also on the opposite direction and say, "Hey, team members, you have to do more, 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 more,"
right,
without the resources,
right.
that they have at their disposal. So it's got to be uh, focused on saving them time so they can do more, but not, you know,
The
burn the
same.
midnight oil, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and a lot of, you talk about transactional things. So transactional work, meaning putting numbers in boxes, has been automated quite a bit across our entire industry. And I think that we've had a really tough time, me included, actually getting to the point where we're actually doing the reporting and doing analysis and stuff like that. Um,
Yeah,
Probably ahead of some people, behind others. It's just natural. You're going to be there. When we started actually getting more serious about it and bringing you into that conversation, I think we made some major headways. The technology is actually providing now the data. Now we just need to help interpret that data. And how will we interpret that data? I think that is the next question. Is this going to be a way that we can, for lower value clients who don't want to pay, a few $1,000s a month, are we able to give them a semblance of analysis versus a full, you know, long
yeah,
document of all those different things that they could do. So I think that's where, finding the right fit for the size client is kind of where we're at too now.
yeah,
So
yeah. Honestly, that's a great idea, and it's something that I think will become more and more important. It's like there'll be a big part of the market that might not want to fully invest,
yeah,
but to the degree that we can use tech-enabled solutions to still give them with, a taste
yeah,
of what it looks like to work with your firm, so it's that when they are able or
right.
willing,
Yeah,
they'll be you'll be their first
right.
option to consider. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's a big part of like why you um go with a good, better, best, when you're doing value pricing and things like that. Like you want to show them that this is aspirational and this is where we can take you in the future. All right. Well, I think you've given us a lot of information on AI. I think we could probably do another one of these in the future, just because I think this is a huge subject. And I would love to even talk to you about robotics, but we can talk about that in the future.
yeah. Bring me on for another episode.
Tell us how we can get a hold of you.
So check us out at opzer.co, and we are on all the socials as well. So LinkedIn and YouTube primarily. So if you look for my name, Asa Perdomo, you'll find a weird black guy
Yeah.
with a blue background. That's me.
All right. Awesome. I didn't know you're on YouTube. I have to check you out. Okay.
Yeah,
All
subscribe.
right.
Actually, there's a video of you.
Oh, really? Oh my gosh. I need to go check.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you all, if you have stuck with us through the end of this video, please like and subscribe. We'd love to have you be a part of our community. We are posting at minimum once a month, usually first Tuesday. We would love to see you here. And obviously, if you have any questions or need any support, please reach out at modventuresllc.com. And we have a contact us document, and you can schedule an appointment right there. All right, you guys, have a great week, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Appreciate you having me.
Yes.